Magandang hapon po. Ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles, ito Press Secretary. Sa ngayong araw na ito, ang ating mga panauhin ay ang Department of Foreign Affairs ukol sa susunod na pagdalaw ng ating Pangulo sa UN General Assembly. So, Yusek Reggie, could you please introduce our speakers?
Magandang hapon po, Malacanang Press Corps, DFA Press Corps at ang kasama natin sa FOCA. Dito po tayo ngayon sa ating press briefing. Kasama nga po si Atty. Trixie Cruz-Angeles, ang ating Press Secretary, at ilang mga Department of Foreign Affairs officials na sina Ambassador Maria Teresita C. Daza, ang ating spokesperson ng DFA, at Assistant Secretary Kira Danganan Azucena, at Assistant Secretary Jose Victor Chan Golgada. Secretary?
Maraming salamat, Yusek Reggie. Maybe we can start with the briefing. Bago po ang briefing ng ating mga guests for today, i-announce ko lang po muna ang pag-appoint ng ilan sa ating mga opisyales of the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or TESDA. Deputy Director General Aniceto de la Rosa Bertis III has been appointed, and there are two other deputies director general who are coterminous with the appointing authority, in particular, Josefino Isaac Torres, who is Vice Lina Sarmiento, and Tonisito Machiavelli Kasugbo Mali, Vice Gabriel Luis Kisumbing. Yun lang po, and we'll turn this over now for the briefing of the DFA.
Here's our out right now. The country's financial sector grew by an average of 5.7% annually from 2016 to 2020, exceeding the average of 4.3%. And the new plan will see it grow by an average of 45%.
Okay. A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. We thank the Office of the Press Secretary for the opportunity to partner in the conduct of this joint press briefing for the members of the Malacanang and the DFA Press Corps. This second joint press briefing focuses on the forthcoming participation of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the high-level week of the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly and his working visit to New York. We're happy to have two senior career diplomats, Assistant Secretary Kira Danganan Azucena and Assistant Secretary Jose Victor Chan Gonzaga, who have served in various capacities both in the Home Office and Foreign Service posts, join us this afternoon. Assistant Secretary Kira Danganan Azucena currently heads the Office of the United Nations and International Organization, which is in charge of Philippine engagement with UN system and other multilateral fora, while concurrently serving as the Chief of Staff in the Office of the Secretary for Foreign Affairs. She has also served as a Deputy Permanent Representative in our mission in New York, in the Philippine Embassy in Rome, and the Consulates General in New York and Hong Kong. ASEC Kira will deliver the statement on the President's participation in the 77th UNGA. Her statement will be followed by that of Assistant Secretary Jose Victor Chan Gonzaga, who heads the Office of American Affairs and who will provide updates on the other engagements and activities of the President while in New York. ASEC JV has served as the Consul General and Minister of Economic Affairs of the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C. He has also been assigned and served as the CDA of our permanent mission to the World Trade Organization in Geneva. At the Home Office, he was Director for Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs, Director for Trade, Economic and Finance Matters, and Legal Officer of UNIO. After our two Assistant Secretaries have spoken, both OPS and DFA will facilitate the question and answer session. We will alternately call members of the Malacanang Press Corps and the DFA Press Corps, starting with the Malacanang Press Corps. May I now invite ASEC Kira to deliver her statement, followed by ASEC JV. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Daza, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen from the media. My name is Kira Christian D. Azucena. I'm the Assistant Secretary of the Office of the United Nations and International Organizations, or UNIO of DFA. And my office manages and coordinates the Philippines' engagements with the United Nations, including the country's participation in the United Nations General Assembly, or UNGA. The President will travel to New York next week to participate in the opening of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly. He will deliver the Philippine National Statement at the high-level general debate of the opening, and his speaking slot is approximately 3:15 in the afternoon of day one. That's Tuesday, September 20, 2022. The theme of this year's general debate is A Watershed Moment, Transformative Solutions to Interlocking Challenges. We can expect the President's statement to identify these challenges and the solutions to address them, the role of the United Nations, and how the Philippines intends to contribute to these efforts. The President's statement will also articulate his administration's priorities, which includes climate change, the rule of law, and food security. Around 152 other heads of state and government will participate in the high-level general debate. The President will take this opportunity to meet with some of them during his stay in New York. He will also meet with some key United Nations officials. The President's participation in the opening of UNGA 77 is important because it marks his first engagement with the United Nations, which the Philippines recognizes as the world's most important multilateral organization. In the UN's program of activities, the high-level general debate is the most important event politically because this is where world leaders articulate policy statements on world affairs and international relations. It is extensively covered by global media and monitored by policy analysts, governments, academics, and CSOs. This year's general debate is also significant because it is the first one to be held completely in person since the pandemic hit in 2020. The general debates in 2020 and 2021 were virtual, where statements were delivered via pre-recorded videos. Former President Duterte participated in the last two general debates through a pre-recorded video. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Daza, and good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, Secretary Angeles. So thank you, ASEC Kira, for the briefing on the President's participation at the 77th UN General Assembly this year. As we all know, the President is very focused on the economy. So coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic and with much uncertainty and disruption around us, the President is not sparing any effort to address the economic challenges facing the country today. The President has made it very clear from the initial discussions preparatory to this trip to New York that it will be more than his debut on the world stage. He gave unequivocal instructions that his meetings, whether with fellow world leaders or with US corporations, should focus on finding the necessary partnerships or synergies that will benefit the Philippine economy and the Filipino people. As such, the other most important speech that the President will deliver in New York, aside from his UNGA address, will be at an economic briefing. This briefing is expected to attract institutional investors, senior corporate executives, business analysts, and even academics, think tanks, and entrepreneurs. This briefing will be an opportunity to outline the key economic priorities of his administration, with a special focus on how we can hopefully expand and strengthen Philippine-US trade and investment relations during his term. At this briefing, the economic managers will also speak to some of the macroeconomic and sectoral issues that might be of interest to potential US investors and partners. We expect them to be joined by a couple of Philippine private sector leaders. The President will then participate in CEO roundtables on targeted sectors. These roundtables are designed to project the Philippines as an important emerging economy and investment destination in Asia. Present will be companies that are operating in the Philippines and with expansion plans, as well as those who are planning to invest in the country in the near future. On the other hand, we expect the one-on-one business meetings of the President to deal with priority areas that can engender a quick post-pandemic economic recovery and the long-term resilience of the Philippine economy. the President intends to meet with U.S. companies that would be able to contribute to our efforts to achieve food security, energy security, and sustainable economic development, among others. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the President is expected to meet with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. ASEAN Business Council, and the U.S. Philippine Society. At these engagements, he will be able to have wide-ranging and candid discussions with political, business, and community leaders on raising the profile of the Philippines in the United States, contributing to the President's economic agenda, and strengthening Philippine-U.S. political, economic, and cultural ties. I'll stop here. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our Assistant Secretaries from the Department of Foreign Affairs. Yusek Reggie, may you please begin the question and answer portion? The questioning portion.
So, who would like to ask questions?
Yusek,
Ivan Marina of JNIM.
magandang hapon po sa lahat. Pwede pong malaman kung sino ang magiging bahagi ng official delegation ng Pangulo?
I think this may be answered by the DFA.
Thank you for the question. If I may answer it. As part of the presidential delegation, presidential engagement with the United Nations, we had to submit a letter of credentials for the Philippine delegation. And in that list, which is quite long, we do have a number of cabinet secretaries included, as well as a number of undersecretaries and other support staff representing the different government agencies, which include the Department of Foreign Affairs, Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Finance, NEDA, and other, the Department of Migrant Workers, and other agencies. I don't have the list with me, but that's essentially the composition of the letter of credentials. I also know that there is quite a substantial business delegation. I leave that to ASIC JV to address. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kira. Well, just to confirm that indeed there will be about a 20 to 30 member business delegation composed of senior Philippine corporate executives who will be joining the president in New York for this particular trip. I'll leave that to, I think, DTI or the Palace to issue the final list of business delegates who will be accompanying the president. Thank you.
Sana lamang po, naikasa po ba ang meeting in the sidelines with US President Joe Biden at sino-sino pa po mga world leaders kaya ang na-arrange na makakapulong ng Pangulo?
DFA, please.
Thank you for the question. Well, I'll just speak to the question, to the specific issue about President Biden. We're still in consultations with the White House and, of course, the National Security Council in Washington, D.C. Ambassador Romualdez is personally dealing with the matter, and I would understand that if there's going to be any announcement, it will probably come either from Secretary Manalo or from Ambassador Romualdez, and obviously that will have to be coordinated with the White House as well. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is from Tristan Nodelo of CNN Philippines.
Hi, good afternoon po. Follow-up ko lang po doon sa topics that will be covered by the President's speech sa UNGA. As you mentioned po kanina, may mga ilang general topics na. But in the last two UNGA of President Duterte, na-highlight po doon yung position on the South China Sea and the arbitral ruling. Are we also expecting that there will be this assertion as well from President Marcos na i-bring niya po sa international community itong issue po on the South China Sea? Thank you.
DFA.
Thank you, Trixie, and thank you for the question. In the draft statement that the DFA prepared for the President, there is a very strong reflection on the rule of law and the role of the UNCLOS. But of course, the way these things go, the statements and speeches of the president are usually vetted by the office of the president. So beyond that, I cannot offer any further comments. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Okay, next question from Ms. Celerina Monte of NHK.
Good afternoon po. I have a few questions, like follow up on Ivan Mayrina's question. Aside from President Biden, who could be the other of presidents whom are heads of states that the president would be having bilateral meetings? Would that include Japanese Prime Minister Kishida?
DFA will add to that, but I would like the DFA to answer first.
Thank you, Sec, and thank you for the question. What I can say at this point is that we do have a number of confirmed meetings at the leaders level involving the president, but we are not inclined to disclose at this point kung sino po yung mga kausap niya. But definitely once the meetings have been conducted, there will be a statement, a press release on these meetings as soon as they're done. Thank you.
Just to double check po, so from when up to when the president will be in New York, and will it be only in New York, not in any other states po in the US?
There are no plans for any other. The primary purpose will still be the UN General Assembly, and that is the main purpose of the trip. There are no announcements or no calendared activities other than that, and those congruent or collateral to this address. Well, of course, aside from what he usually does, meeting with the Filipino community when the opportunity arises. Would the DFA like to add?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Pero yung dates po, from when up to when? He will be delivering the speech on the 20th, but when will he leave and when will he come back to the Philippines?
I understand that he leaves the Philippines on the 18th and will return, if I'm not mistaken, DFA, please confirm, on the 24th. DFA, is it? I got my dates right. All right, that's it. He leaves the Philippines on the 18th, returns on the 24th, leaves New York on the 24th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celerina. And next is from Hannah Jane Sancho of SMNB.
Good afternoon, everyone. Confirm ko lang po, hindi pa sure yung Filipino community na meeting na hindi pa possible yung, or hindi pa sure na magkakaroon ng meeting si President Marcos sa Filipino community dito sa New York.
We'll be making an announcement on the details at a later date.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, next question is from Donna Pazibugan of Inquirer.
I won't ask my questions anymore. They've been covered. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Job Manahan of ABS-CBN News.
Good afternoon po. I would just ask lang po if President Marcos would meet with China Xi Jinping po. And follow-up ko lang din po yung kung possible din po na makakapag-meet with Fumio Kishida ng Japan po. Thank you.
For meetings, we are not at liberty to make any announcements, particularly since we will be making final announcements when we get to New York as the occasion arises. So I hope you understand.
Okay po. Just follow-up question lang po. What are the topics that President Marcos is will discuss during UNGA? And ano po yung possible na erase niya kung may kipag-meet siya sa ibang bilateral leaders, sa iba pong leaders?
well, in general, we don't announce the details of a speech until actually it's been made. No? But in this case, the president's primary objective, and in fact his main policy in his governance, in this administration, is economic recovery. And so all activities, particularly even those that are related, all presidential activities are related to this particular vision. So we're going to expect that his speech will be relating to how the Philippines will be recovering from this pandemic and where he intends to take this and how he will do so in cooperation with other states. Are you okay?
Yes po. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Job. Next is Barnaby Law of Algeria.
Good afternoon, Madam Sir. I just want to follow up on Celerina's question earlier about the itinerary. So he's leaving on the 18th. May we know the time and what kind of coverage arrangements will there be at the airport? As well as clarification lang on the time of the speech. It's 3:15 p.m. September 20th. That's East Coast time, right? So that would be 3:15 a.m. Wednesday in the Philippines.
DFA, with regard to the time of the speech, could you please clarify?
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for the question. The president will speak, he is speaker number 2 on day 1 of the afternoon session of the general debate, which means that, and the afternoon session usually starts at 3 o'clock. And world leaders who will deliver their respective statements are usually given courtesy time limit, I emphasize the word courtesy, time limit of 20 minutes. But of course, if they go beyond 20 minutes, then nobody's in a position to stop them. So that's why I said in my opening statement that the estimated time of delivery of the president's statement at the general debate is around 3:15 to 3:20 in the afternoon New York time. Thank you.
Your time, okay.
Okay. Now, let's move on to for the question of Ms. Malu of Business Mirror.
Hi, magandang hapon po. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, ma'am.
Okay. Secretary Trixie, I gathered the Vice President is scheduled to have also a meeting, as Education Summit meeting, but is she pushing through? Because I heard that the schedule is supposed to be September 17 to 19.
I'm afraid you're going to have to refer to the Department of Education for these details.
All right. But of course, if this, the president and the vice president are not allowed to go out of the country at the same time, right?
Are you saying that is it a matter of policy that both the president and the vice president don't leave the country at the same time? I think more than policy, it is simply a matter of prudence to have somebody in charge. It doesn't mean that they're absolutely not allowed to, but it is simply prudent to do so.
So is she not, or is she coming to the Education Summit as well?
Like I said, we will have to refer to the Department of Education for the schedule of the vice president.
But you have to coordinate, right, on their schedule?
In general, yes, they do.
And how about the DFA? I think you'll be swamped with two heads there. Is the vice president coming to the Education Summit as well?
Thank you for the question. And if I may, said Trixie, we did receive confirmation from the Office of the Vice President that she will not be attending the Education Summit. So on her stead, Secretary Manalo will attend the summit. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just clarify if it's in deference to the schedule of the president.
The president has not mentioned the motives for the vice president asking the Secretary of Foreign Affairs to go in her stead.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay, another question, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah. Aside from that schedule of the vice president, another global event is also happening in the other side of the globe, which is in UK, which is the state funeral. Is that the reason you're not telling us the schedule of the president meeting with other state leaders? Because some other state leaders are also in the funeral of the Queen.
Madam, I think that if we weren't telling you something, we also wouldn't be telling you the reason for not telling you something. So we have there's no indication of an unscheduled visit or meeting other than what has already been announced and agreed upon with the DFA.
It doesn't say anything, Madam. Why the secrecy of not telling us who is the president meeting?
There is no secrecy, Madam. We have no information on that. Nothing has been discussed with the DFA. And so when you ask if there is such a meeting, there is none, unless something else comes up later on. But assuming that there is one and that it involves some level of secrecy, the diplomatic talks are exempt from disclosure, precisely because some things might happen and international relations and dialogues are sensitive in nature. However, what we can assure you is that if something does come up, then we will make the announcement immediately.
I have the impression, Madam, that you're going to announce it after the meeting, right? After the meeting is already taken place, right?
No, Madam, I cannot control your impressions, but I can only tell you what information is available right now.
Okay. So among the 150 other leaders that will be joining in the UNGA, can you tell us exactly, maybe a ballpark figure on how many is the president scheduled, or what, at least at the very least, at the pipeline of meeting him?
I think I will have to defer to the DFA for this one.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. It's hard to even give a ballpark figure because the way these things go, requests are coming in from many sides. And given that we are dealing with heads of state here, sometimes the final schedules and even whether the meeting will take place in the first place are pinned down very close to the date already. So more than anything, it's really just a question of prudence on whether we should make the announcement or not, because precisely because things tend to be very fluid in setting up these meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Asek. Well, I think there will be no more questions.
With the DFA press corps will be asking questions.
Ambassador.
There are a number of questions that have already been answered, but there are some that may be good to actually raise. And I will do it as a group because some are actually similar. One question that has been raised is, what would be the significance of President Marcos's speech and address in the UNGA? And related to that is the question from the files, what does the president aim to achieve when he goes to UNGA? What are the issues that he will bring to the UN in his speech? The issue of the window of delivering the statement has already been answered. And also related to that is, how does President Marcos's physical participation in the UNGA and the visit to the United States take significance, considering that the former, and I'm reading this, which is not totally accurate, considering former President Duterte never physically attended the summit and never visited the U.S. during this trip. As mentioned earlier, President Duterte may not have gone, but he did actually participate in the UNGA virtually. So these three groups of questions that are more or less related.
So we had already mentioned the purpose of the visit and the President's primary policy, that his intent with the administration is for economic recovery, and therefore his activities are always pursuant to that. His speech will be in pursuit of that. So in fact, the delegation is composed primarily of his economic team plus. If there are any more details, would the DFA like to add to this? No more? Okay, well, are there any further questions?
Yes, Madam Secretary. The other question that came also from Ivo Santos is as follows. The President has a standing contempt order in the United States. Although certain U.S. officials have said that the President Marcos could not be arrested for diplomatic immunity, does the President aim to settle the contempt order once and for all when he goes to the United States?
DFA? No? Yes? All right. But it is not part of the agenda as far as we can see. Thank you. Are there further questions?
This was actually also raised, but I think has been partially answered. Does he plan to visit Washington during his U.S. trip? And also related to that, the meeting with President Biden, if it is a go, when will this more or less be, and what will be the areas or topics to be discussed?
I'm afraid that for state visits and meetings with other heads of state, then this will be subject to ongoing, ongoing talks between the two states. As mentioned by the DFA, things are pretty fluid, so we will be making announcements as soon as we can pin any party down to a particular day. I hope you be patient. These things are subject to a lot of back and forth between the representatives of both states. It's kind of educational for all of us. Right. Other questions?
Secretary, we have a question from Joseph Cadrajas of Manila, Bulletin.
Good afternoon po. Ma'am, for the DFA po, that will also be part of the delegation, what is expected from the agency po? And if I heard it right, Secretary Manalo will be attending on behalf of OVP, of the VP in the Education Summit. So who will represent the DFA in the UNGA po? Thank you.
DFA, please.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Madam Secretary. Well, the DFA will be represented by at its highest levels, which is Secretary Manalo himself, but he will be assisted by a couple of undersecretaries and ourselves, ASIC JV and myself, and some support staff. Definitely during in all of the activities of the President where Secretary Manalo's assistance and presence is required, SFA will be there as well.
Okay, ma'am. But any meeting with the counterpart po?
Well, Secretary Manalo himself also has a number of meetings lined up with his counterpart foreign ministers of other countries. As I mentioned before, even for him, we choose not to disclose at this point which countries these are, but we will definitely make an announcement as soon as these are confirmed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Last na lang, ma'am. Any topic po na madidiscuss kaya?
Sorry, what?
Any topic po na madidiscuss?
At the level of foreign minister, they usually talk about bilateral relations in general. And if there are specific topics in these bilateral relations that need special discussions, then those will be discussed.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And for our last question, Karen Lema of Reuters.
Hi, sir. Hi, Secretary. Just a quick question, ma'am. Before the president assumed the presidency, when was the last time he visited the United States?
I'm sorry, you're asking me when the last time the president visited the United States?
Yeah,
before he became president?
Yes.
Actually, I'm not sure. I don't have that information right now. I'll probably have to get back to you on that one.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Okay, I think that's all. Thank you. Thank you so much for our DFA official, Ambassador Trixie Daza, our spokesperson, to Assistant Secretary Kira Danganan Azuzena, and Assistant Secretary of Sir Victor Chan Gonzaga. Maraming salamat po. Secretary, would you like to...
yeah, hold on. Sure. Are there any other questions not relating to the foreign visit to the UN General Assembly? Malacanang Press Corps? Wala?
Ako po, ma'am.
Okay, Ivan.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Nagtatanong po ang Department of Foreign Affairs, sorry, ang Commission on Human Rights. Kailan daw po magkakaroon ng appointees? Kasi nag-retiro po ang lahat ng mga commissioners nitong Mayo at hanggang ngayon po walang mga nakaupong opisyal sa Commission on Human Rights.
I see. I can't really say when the appointment is going to be made. I understand that it is already under consideration. So maybe any day now, I'm not sure. But like I said, it has been under consideration already.
Maraming salamat. Thank you.
A question from Jean Cabato.
Yes, hello. I hope you can hear me. Babasahin ko lang yung question na pinadala ko po sa chat. Is there any comment from Malacanang or the DFA on the hundreds of Filipinos reported to be stranded in a U.S. military base on Diego Garcia Island in the Indian Ocean? This is in relation daw po to an American contractor, and there is a wage dispute that's ongoing, while the Department of Migrant Workers has asked the employer to raise the wages. At ina-allege pa ng Department of Migrant Workers na kinancel daw po yung mga chartered flights for these Filipinos. So I'm wondering po if the Palace and the DFA could comment, and will this be brought up during the US trip?
Whether or not it's going to be brought up, we will have to see about that one. But for the moment, we're relying and monitoring through the Department of Migrant Workers. So it's still in the hands of Sec Toots. We will wait for her report. Malacanang will relies heavily on the people who are directly involved on this one. So we will comment upon receiving her report.
Thank you. And if the DFA would also like to comment?
I think DFA is not already anymore in the room. So we will relay the question, madam. Okay,
other questions?
From Zane Lopez.
Ma'am, good afternoon po. Can we get a palace statement po regarding sa statement po na sinabi ni World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus na ang pandemic daw po is we are in a better position to end the pandemic. We're not there yet, but the end is in sight. Pwede pong makahingi ng palace statement regarding that po?
Well, we're not reacting to that statement, but we are continuing with our economic recovery program. And pursuant to that, our very recent relaxed mask mandates are also pursuant to that one. So if the World Health Organization is optimistic then so are we in our outlook to recovering from this pandemic.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Maraming salamat po, Press Secretary Atty. Trixie Cruz-Angeles, sa ating pong DFA Press Corps, POCAP at ang Malacanang Press Corps. Magandang hapon po kayo lahat.
Thank you.
Bye.